Somebody tried to kill Mob Associate Sylvester Zottola. Not once, not twice, but at least 6 different times.
Someone was definitely gunning for him, and it wasn't the first time.
Was he because of his connection to a well-known organized crime family in New York? A story that could be straight out of a mob movie, but it's not. It's real life, and it happened on the streets of New York City.
Sylvester "Sally Daz" Zottola was a 71-year-old businessman and associate of the Bonanno crime family. Sally Daz operated a real estate and gambling empire in Locust Point in the Bronx. The story of the demise of Sylvester Zottola could have been taken right from a mob movie script in Hollywood, but this tale of not 1, not 2, but 6 assassination attempts in a 1-year period, ending in the brutal death of Sylvester Zottola, happened in real life. Sylvester Zottola ran an illegal gambling racket centered around Joker poker video games and used his profits to buy real estate in and around the Bronx. The successful businessman used his wealth to build each of his children a home in a compound in Locust Point. Sylvester Zottola was known as a family man, which makes this story that much more devastating. Sylvester Zottola had 3 children, Sal Jr., Anthony, and Debbie. Nothing was more important than being a father and providing for his children, especially after the death of his wife when the kids were young. Zottola would throw parties in his neighborhood and put on a fireworks show on the 4th of July. So when the multiple attacks began to occur, law enforcement was left wondering, who wanted Zottola dead? Sylvester Zottola was known by police as an associate of the Bonanno crime family and received their protection. He, along with his son Sal Jr., who helped manage the Joker poker business, were particularly close with Bonanno family boss Vinnie Gorgeous Bassiano. On September 8, 2017, Sylvester Zottola was approached outside his home by a black male asking about job opportunities. After Zottola replied that he had no job openings, the man violently attacked Sally Daz in broad daylight, leaving the older man beaten severely. Almost 3 months later, on November 26, 2017, Sylvester Zottola was driving down the street when a car cut him off and stopped in front of him in the road. Several black males jumped out with guns in hand, pointing them in Zottola's direction. Zottola made a quick move and floored his car past the armed men. Zottola reported these attacks to the police, who was just as confused as to who was trying to take out Sylvester Zottola. A recent dispute over Zottola's Joker poker empire had law enforcement speculating that the Italian or Albanian Mafia were muscling in on Zottola's business. The attacks continued when on December 27, 2017, Sylvester Zottola returned to his home when 2 black men came around the corner and still whipped the 70-year-old, slashing his throat once they had him subdued. The men fled, thinking the hit was successful, leaving Zottola on the floor of his own home, screaming for his life. Fortunately, a neighbor heard the cries for help and called 911. Zottola was rushed to the hospital not knowing if he would survive. Luckily, Sally Daz would pull through and recover. Zottola's children were all very concerned about their father and were all too willing to assist law enforcement however they could. Sal Jr. even reached out to the Bonanno family boss, Vinnie Gorgeous, for help in a recorded call, dispelling any suspicion of the Italian Mafia's involvement.
You don't bother anybody. There's nobody that you bother that they should put you through this mode, man. Your father's a good person. Your father's the salt of the earth. He helped out everybody. I don't know who's got this problem against him. They wanted to
it's somebody that he knows. It's somebody that knows his routine.
Unfortunately, this left the Zottola family, as well as law enforcement, no closer to figuring out who was behind these violent attacks. On June 12, 2018, Sylvester Zottola was standing outside of his home when a black male ran towards him, pointing a pistol at his head. The man repeatedly pulled the trigger, but fortunately, the gun jammed and never fired a shot. Sally Daz pulled his own gun and fired. The man fled into a car and left.
See a black guy with a hood on. He almost kind of looked like the guy that tried to shoot me in Locust Point.
This nightmare for the Zottola family continued when a month later, on July 11, 2018, Sal Zottola Jr. was walking to his car when a car pulled up firing shots out of the window. The car stopped, and the shooter approached Sal Jr. as he tried to crawl out of harm's way. The shooter continued to fire, hitting Sal Jr. in his head, neck, and abdomen. However, Sal Jr. would survive. The final attack occurred when on October 4, 2018, Sylvester Zottola drove to a McDonald's in the Bronx for a cup of coffee. As Zottola pulled through the drive-thru, a gunman ran towards Sally Daz, pumping shots through the passenger side window. The shooter disappeared through the bushes as Zottola's car rolled forward slowly, coming to a stop against the McDonald's building. Sylvester Zottola was hit multiple times in the head and was pronounced dead at the scene. Law enforcement, who had already created a task force to investigate the attacks on the Zottola family, made it their mission to figure out who was behind the multiple attempts and eventual death of Sylvester Zottola. 5 days later, on October 9, 2018, the funeral was held for Sylvester Sally Daz Zottola. Anthony Zottola gave a heartfelt eulogy that left his brother and sister in tears. The funeral came and went, with law enforcement, as well as the Zottola family, no closer to figuring out who was responsible for taking out Sylvester Zottola. However, a break came in the case during the forensic examination of Sylvester Zottola's car. A tracking device was found attached under the car, which had been used to track Sylvester Zottola's every move. The GPS tracker gave the investigators a solid lead. Using the serial number on the tracking device, investigators discovered a treasure trove of information. The investigators were able to determine exactly when and where the tracker had been activated. The GPS data showed the tracker was first used a few days before the hit on Sylvester Zottola on Topping Avenue in the Bronx. Investigators canvassed the area, looking for any security cameras that may have captured whoever activated the tracking device. Police discovered a video of two black men testing out the tracker on their car. The investigators' original theory of a Mafia-related hit was quickly disproven when the two men in the video were identified as members of the Blood Street Gang. The police were left wondering what ties the Bloods gang had with Sylvester Zottola and why they wanted to take him out. The first man was identified as Bushon Shelton, who was known as a high-ranking member of the Bloods gang. The other man was identified as Hyman Ross, an associate of the Bloods gang. Investigators knew these men were involved in the hit on Sylvester Zottola, but did not have enough evidence to make an arrest. That would all change when another Bloods associate, who was already in jail, decided to come forward with crucial information. The informant told police that he was the attempted shooter whose gun jammed in front of Zottola's house, and that it was Bushon Shelton who offered $10,000 to take out Sylvester Zottola. Police now had enough evidence to arrest Bushon Shelton and search his home for evidence, but still didn't understand his connection with Sylvester Zottola. Investigators discovered a goldmine of incriminating evidence when during the search, Bushon Shelton's cell phone was seized and analyzed, showing Shelton communicating with an unknown individual about the many attempts and the ultimately successful hit on Sylvester Zottola. Police turn over Bushon Shelton's cell phone to the forensic team to hopefully discover the identity of the unknown individual, and were left stunned when the mastermind behind the attacks was revealed as none other than Sylvester Zottola's own son, Anthony Zottola. Law enforcement and the entire Locust Point community were left shocked and speechless. Anthony Zottola contracted the Blood Street Gang to carry out a hit on his own father. Bushon Shelton, who was Anthony Zottola's primary contact, used other gang members and associates to carry out the multiple attacks on Sally Daz. Law enforcement officials believe that the motive was simply greed. Anthony Zottola wanted to take out his own father and brother to benefit financially from the family's successful businesses. On June 17, 2019, Anthony Zottola was arrested and convicted for the death of his father, Sylvester Zottola.
I had a feeling you were coming. When, I don't know, but I can thank you that it was after Father's Day and it was after all my kids' birthdays.
The judge sentenced Anthony Zottola to life in prison plus 112 years, representing the combined ages of Sylvester Zottola and his son, Sal Jr. Through it all, the Zottola family has been destroyed and continues to ask why. The only one who can answer that question is Anthony Zottola. Let us know your thoughts on this video down in the comments. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and keep following American Made.